Azimio la Umoja camp approached the Bomas submission very different and caught Kenya Kwanza off guard.
Thank you, honorable members. I just want to take like 4 minutes, not more. I've given you hard copies of some forms to check on, and we want to demonstrate something with them. First, you need to look at them and note that the prints are very small. Those prints are very small, but the signatures are there. That means people signed them, literally. So probably, did they even verify that data before signing on a hard copy format like that? When we look at them on the screen, one of the forms look like that. And then I will give you another form now, which also looks like that. So these are 2 forms. If I click here, that's one of them, and then this is another one. Even by the size, you can see that they are all both the same forms. So looking at them casually by your eyes, they will pass for IEBC forms. One of them is obtained from the Bomas during the election results announcement, and another one is brought later on by the whistleblower who claims to work for IEBC. So we had to take that seriously and compare the 2 forms. So when we compared these 2 forms, we know that what authenticates a form in current technology, one of them is the barcode. If you scan that barcode, it will give you this value, which authenticates that that form, the barcode is correctly placed. When you come to this other form, and then you scan its barcode also, maybe on your mobile device if you decide to, then you will realize that it also gives you this. Apparently, the website that the barcode needs to point you to is pulled down and it no longer exists. So we have these forms, and we were intelligent enough to pick them up while they were still online during the IEBC processes. The next thing that validates a form is the signature. A person cannot decide to sign a form and then later on be given another form to sign without explanation, especially if the forms appear to have some different content. So in other words, the people who signed these forms probably just signed once and took off. So how come the 2 forms seem to have the same signatures again? We have these signatures and we have that signature. This is Japheth Omara, and this is also Japheth Omara. The third thing that authenticates any form is the stamp. Anybody who stamps a form knows that they own that form, literally. So these 2 forms seem to have, again, the same stamp. But then let's look further. If somebody sends you inside to go check the content, you will take off and say, that's too much, I cannot do it. So we had to use another method of figuring out what the content entails. And so let me take you to what we did to confirm the 2 forms for you. What we did is we took the 2 forms and processed them, and then it had to take the results of all the 4 candidates that were there at that time. Then we realized that in every constituency, the Honorable Professor Wajakoya and the Honorable Mwaure, their data did not change at all. If he got 1 in this form, he got 1 in the other form. But when we checked on the other 2 candidates, that is Raila Odinga and William Ruto, we noticed that there were some changes that were beginning to show up in these forms. Remember, the IBC whistleblower did not carry this process out. We carried it out as Azimio to check what really happened. Now I want you to look at the last two columns. The last two columns gives us the differences of the votes between the two forms. So, if you look at this Maroni Primary School, room 1, Raila got 245 votes and Ruto got 73 votes from the whistleblower's data. Again, Raila got 245 and 73 for Ruto in the Bomas portal data. That gave us a 0 for Raila and a 0 for Ruto. So using that method throughout, we run through this form and then we start noticing differences. We come to this particular station and then we realize that here in the other form for the whistleblower, Raila has 223 and Ruto has 134. And in the Bomas portal, Raila now has 123 and Ruto has 234. That you cannot even verify from that small thing form that is been given to you. Those fonts with the just raw eye, you cannot even read them. But the system read them for us and gave us that. Then we scanned through and realized that there were some jumpy, fishy operations going on in some of these constituencies. So we looked at another one and we saw here he has, Raila has 277 votes and 102. But then in the Bomas, now he has 77 and William Ruto has 304 votes. Now when we take that throughout, we notice that in this particular constituency, Raila now has negative 550 votes deducted from him and Ruto has 550 votes added to him.
This was an expected presentation, and this presentation was done by an expert that Azimio la Umoja, that was with the Azimio la Umoja team, explaining why the service, or rather the scrutiny of the last presidential election is something that must be in the table. Ladies and gentlemen, in this podcast, I will take you through how Kenya Kwanza fell for the Azimio trap. And they got it. And Azimio got it. They didn't expect what was going to happen. So if you didn't follow, don't worry. This podcast is going to sort you out so that you understand what exactly happened today. Kindly subscribe to our channel. We still, before we get into that, this boy here, Edwin, is our project for this month. This boy got C+ and was admitted, supposed to join Kirinyaga University, and due to financial constraint, he's still at home. So reached out, the brother reached out, and as Bold family took it that in this month, this will be a project. We want to take this boy to school on Friday. So we are running 100 shillings challenge towards his education kitty, to help us do that on this Friday. So kindly let's support, and I really want to continue saying thank you. I believe this is going to be a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday Kenya Kwanza and Azimio la Umoja were actually supposed to appear before the Bipartisan Talks Committee on Monday, but they cancelled it last minute. Nearly like 30 minutes before they arrived there, they wrote a letter and cancelled. And the intention was that after cancelling, maybe there were some mind games. Then Azimio will then project, will then submit, then they submit later. But after that, immediately they cancelled at the very moment, even Azimio la Umoja cancelled. So today, when the Kenya Kwanza appeared there, they were led by Malala. Cleophas Malala, the UDA Secretary General, was accompanied by Omboko Milemba, the ANC SG, and Ford Kenya SG in that delegation. And on the other Azimio side, on the other Kenya Kwanza side, there was also Bomet Senator Sigei. So that caucus that represented Kenya Kwanza actually made of political party leaders from the Kenya Kwanza side. When they appeared there, and I can tell you, they spoke for a first 30 minutes. In some unusual hurry, they were only given 30 minutes. And those 30 minutes, their work was very simple. In fact, copy-pasting the campaign rhetoric, what you've been hearing in the rallies, when people say, election iliisha, we are beyond it, it was finished, it ended at Supreme Court. That is what Malala went and told that committee. The other thing, what we've been hearing at the campaign rallies, that commission, the selection panel that was picked by the president, needs to proceed with its work, and because it has already been picked from different quarters and it has a representation, that is what they went and said there. There was nothing new. The same rhetoric of IBC is supposed to do boundary delimitation, there should be no any other body, it was there. I can tell you, the presentation that was done by Kenya Kwanza was one that, even me, if I'm not prepared, I'm just told, sit, listen to what Ruto and Rigathi has been saying in rallies, and then go project what is the UDA position on servers, on election, IBC, on party hopping. And arrogantly, Malala was asked about the issue of party dismembering other parties. I want you to listen to how he arrogantly responded to that question.
I want to strongly agree with the Secretary General of the Ford Kenya that let us strengthen political parties. Because we fought so much in this country, we shed blood to achieve the multi-party democracy. And therefore our position is that let us strengthen political parties. But the big question is, how do you strengthen your political party? You strengthen by recruiting members. So if in an instance you can recruit members from a particular political party to a point whereby that political party is no longer viable, you can decide to take up the entire membership of a political party and bring to your... So strengthening, you must strengthen your political party by recruiting members. And that is our position, that let us strengthen, let us compete, and that is multi-democracy that we fought for.
Look, to an extent of saying that because you want to members, you are allowed to go and even take members from the other parties. Note, there is something that Kenya Kwanza should not lie to us about. That what is being used to buy opposition MPs to the other side of government is not development, but is the state machinery. And that is why the opposition wing has been saying that the state machinery is being abused to dismember other political parties. There is no problem, people can always cross. But a situation where ruling coalition uses that machinery to influence, look at what was happening at Jubilee Party, is that what was being controlled. So, Azimio then came, and there is something I realized. Unlike Kenya Kwanza, who went and picked political party SGs and Senate elected leaders there, Azimio team were led by, actually it was an expert model. And I listened to Nderitu Muriithi, represented by Nderitu Muriithi. Nderitu Muriithi is an economist, a Kibaki era economist. So a relative to Kibaki, I think, former President Kibaki. Economist. Then there was Caroline Karogo, also economist, the former DG, Nyeri. Then there was Ndegwa Njiru, lawyer, the Maina Njenga's lawyer. Then there was the former Kiambu governor, Nyoro, and the other specialists, the other experts, including the gentleman who I just shared his video earlier there, explaining about the election servers and the results at the bottom. So if you take that, you'll realize that there is something Azimio la Umoja wanted to project, and they successfully projected. They wanted to project this matter that our position on reforms that are supposed to be done are not on our party. Is not we don't want to do it for Azimio supporters, but we want to do it for this country. And that's why they went and picked people that are just specialists, experts in different sectors. It's about quality, not the quantity. I think they wanted to achieve that. Number two, the proposals were tailor-made in line with governance loopholes. If you listen to Nderitu Muriithi, he was speaking about governance loopholes, why Kenya Kwanza is getting it wrong on some different fronts. If you look at their pitch, the expert pitch on why the servers must be scrutinized, the gentleman that was making that presentation gave an elaborate presentation from the IBC, sources from the IBC, on why the last election cannot be given a clean bill. Remember, Kenya Kwanza only took 30 minutes. Azimio went there with the details and made a presentation for more than 1 hour. So, looking at it, I see there's some objectives that Raila wanted to achieve with that Azimio presentation. But these three objectives. Number one, Raila team went there to ensure that audit of the last elections remains on table. Remember, this has been one of the most contentious things. And I want to tell you why Raila insists on this. Azimio la Umoja will mount their campaign, 2027 campaign, on the fact that they have unfinished business. That things did not work, and if they project that something is wrong and audit is done and some loopholes can be traced, then with a clarity that something went wrong in the last general election, there will be those reforms, then they will campaign on those reforms, that now we've made the reforms, so we can now go to the election. Number two, Azimio and Raila team was projecting a nationalist agenda, not a party agenda. They're just a political party, but they did, for example, people would expect the Sifuna, who is the ODMSG, but Sifuna was not there. He did not make a presentation. Someone was expecting that Jeremiah Kieni will be on behalf of Jubilee. That was not there. Sent to the other parties, but those were not represented. It's very clear that they wanted to project something different from what Kenya Kwanza did. What Kenya Kwanza did is just copy-pasting. By the way, I'm not demystifying. I wish you take time and listen to that 33-minute video. You'll realize what I'm saying. I think they also wanted to ensure they push Ruto's legitimacy by making that presentation was supposed to be eye-catching, so that their representation will continue pushing the strong agenda that election was done irresponsibly. Thank you. That's my last video today. Let's meet tomorrow. Let's continue supporting this gentleman. I want to read your feedback on this podcast. If you followed, really, what did you see that maybe I've not mentioned here?